In this video, I'm about to show you 25 bread brands you must not buy and exactly why, along with 10 clean, real ingredient options you should be buying instead. Starting with number 25. Hovis. You know Hovis, right? It's just everywhere. It's one of the biggest bread brands in the UK, selling millions of loaves every single week, so most of us don't even think about it anymore. You just grab it and move on, because it feels safe and familiar. But when you actually eat it, you can tell what it's really been built for. The bread's heavily processed, so it lasts longer and looks the same every time, not because it tastes better. Toast it, and it dries out too quickly. Eat it plain, and it's not awful. It's just empty. And that's the tiring part. The price keeps creeping up, but the bread never improves. At some point, it starts to feel like they know we're busy, tired, and won't question it, so they don't bother giving us anything better. Number 24. Kingsmill. Kingsmill has always felt slightly confusing as a brand. Sometimes it's white, sometimes brown, sometimes 5050, with every loaf quietly suggesting it's the smarter, more balanced choice. That's what makes it tiring. It sounds healthier without really offering anything different. You feel like you've chosen better, but when you look closely, it's the same bread dressed up in reassurance. Kingsmill knows how to sell that safe middle ground. Packaging changes, prices creep up, but the product stays comfortably average. Eventually, it stops feeling like a real option and becomes a gentle illusion of improvement. Number 23. Warburton's. Looking at Warburton's, you naturally assume it'll be a bit better. The name carries weight, the slices are thick, and the price is slightly higher. The issue isn't that the bread is sour. The problem is that for years, it's been the same. The taste, the texture, the overall experience, nothing evolves. Yet every year, it seems to get more expensive than regular bread, and that's where the fatigue sets in. If you're charging a premium, then something genuinely better should come with it. But here, it feels like the brand is just running on trust and routine. The name is strong, so there's no real urgency to improve. And when a brand relies solely on that, the product stagnates while customers keep paying. Number 22. Allinson's. Hearing the name Allinson's, you naturally assume it's a healthier option. The wholemeal image, the natural vibes, and that general feeling that it must be a better choice than regular white bread, all set a confident expectation. And that's exactly what ends up being frustrating later on. Because once you start eating it regularly, the experience doesn't feel that different at all. The taste is flat, the texture is boring, and there's nothing that makes you think, yeah, this was an upgrade. Then you remember the price, which is often higher than standard loaves, and that's when the fatigue kicks in. Putting a healthier label on something makes it easy to charge a bit more, but when the product itself still feels average, it starts to feel like the brand is running on perception rather than substance. The idea of a better choice is being sold, not the bread itself. Number 21. Vogel's. This is one of those breads you buy with good intentions and regret a few days later. Vogel's isn't bad, but it's hard work. It sells itself as proper and healthy, loaded with seeds and grains, like you're doing the right thing. But eating it every day is a chore. It's dense, heavy, and never delightful. Toast it, and it's either rock solid or weirdly uneven. You don't look forward to it, you just get through it. And that's where it starts to feel off. They know people will keep buying it because it looks responsible. So the image carries the brand, not the experience. And once you notice that, it just feels like another company quietly cashing in on people trying to do better. Number 20. Jackson's Yorkshire Champion. This is the kind of bread that leans really hard on where it's from. Yorkshire Champion sounds proud and traditional, as if it's automatically better, and that's precisely the problem. The name does most of the work before you've even opened the bag. When you actually eat it, it's fine. Nothing shocking, nothing special, just solid, ordinary bread. But the branding makes you feel like you're getting something more than that. And over time, that starts to grate. It feels like the heritage is doing the selling, not the loaf itself. They know people trust that regional pride, so there's no real push to make the product stand out. The story carries it, and the bread just quietly follows along. Number 19. Bergen. Bergen has always taken a slightly different angle. Protein, omega-3, and lower carbs. It starts to feel less like bread and more like a supplement. And honestly, that's kind of the problem. It stops feeling like food and starts feeling engineered. You don't buy it for the taste, you buy it for what's written on the label. Even when you're eating it, it doesn't really feel like regular bread. A bit dry, a bit artificial. Over time, you realize all those functional claims matter more to the brand than the loaf itself. They know people will compromise on taste if the health keywords sound right. So the focus isn't enjoyment, it's claims. And when bread turns into a calculation, it starts to feel a bit like a quiet scam. Number 18. Baker Street. Baker Street is one of those breads that's clearly been designed to survive, not to be enjoyed. You open the bag and it already feels different. Super soft, sealed tight, like it's been built to last forever. And that's pretty much the whole point. This bread is made for convenience and shelf life first, everything else second. You eat it and it doesn't taste bad, but it doesn't taste fresh either. It's just there. There's no bakery feel, no real character, just something that fills the space. And that's where it starts to feel off. They know people want easy, long-lasting bread, so freshness gets quietly traded away. It's not an accident, it's the business model. And after a while, it feels like we're eating packaging decisions more than actual bread. Number 17. Village Bakery. Village Bakery should be simple, like something made nearby, no fuss, just decent bread. But when you actually eat it, that idea falls apart pretty quickly. It's packaged and processed in a way that feels miles away from anything village-like. The slices are uniform, the texture's a bit spongy, and everything about it feels designed to travel and sit around, not to feel fresh. And that's the part that gets annoying. The name paints one picture, the bread delivers another. It's not terrible, but it feels like the brand is leaning hard on a cozy image while doing the same mass-produced thing as everyone else. After a while, it just feels like another case of a nice-sounding story doing more work than the loaf itself. Number 16. Tesco bread. Tesco bread is what happens when bread becomes a system rather than food. It's built to hit a price point first, everything else second. You can feel that straight away. One week it's fine, the next week it's different. Same bag, same name, but the loaf just isn't the same. And that's the tiring part. It feels like the recipe's constantly being tweaked in the background to save a bit more money. Nothing's ever bad enough to complain about, but nothing's good enough to care about either. And Tesco knows that. People buy it because it's there, it's cheap, and it does the job. The bar is intentionally kept low. It's not about making decent bread, it's about keeping things just acceptable enough that no one questions it. Number 15. ASDA bread. ASDA bread feels like it's stuck in a constant race to be the cheapest thing on the shelf. And when that's the main goal, everything else takes a back seat. The loaf does the job, sure, but there's nothing about it you'd ever look forward to. It's bland, forgettable, and kind of hollow. Not bad enough to return, not good enough to enjoy. And that's the bit that wears you down. It feels like every decision's been made to shave a little more off the cost, not to make the bread any better. ASDA knows people buying it just want something cheap and easy, so the bar stays permanently low. After a while, it starts to feel like you're not buying bread, you're just buying filler. Number 14. Sainsbury's bread. Sainsbury's bread feels like it's trying a bit too hard to cover every angle at once. You've got standard, taste the difference, wholemeal, seeded loads of options, but somehow they all blur into the same experience. It's like a choice for the sake of choice. You buy one thinking it'll be noticeably better, and then you eat it and realize it's just fine. Nothing really stands out, and that's the frustrating part. It feels like the effort has gone into creating tiers and labels, not into making any one loaf genuinely good. They know people trust the brand and value the sense that they've picked the right option, so the focus remains on presentation rather than improvement. After a while, it starts to feel less like variety and more like noise, hiding the fact that the bread itself never really changes. Number 13. Morrisons bread. That smell hits you the second you walk in, and you already feel a bit more confident about the bread. That's the Morrisons effect. The in-store bakery sets this whole idea that what you're buying is fresher, better, more proper. And to be fair, that's why a lot of people trust it. But once you start using the regular loaves day to day, that feeling doesn't really hold up. One day it's soft, the next it's dry way too quickly. Toasting it is hit and miss. And that's where it gets frustrating. The bakery's vibe sells freshness, but the everyday bread doesn't consistently deliver. Fresh looking and fresh being aren't the same. Number 12. Marks & Spencer Value Bread. M&S Value Bread feels weird when you actually stop and think about it. You don't expect much, sure, but you still expect it to feel like M&S, and that's where it falls apart. This bread does the absolute bare minimum. The slices are thin, the texture is flimsy, and it tires quickly. It's not offensive, it's just lifeless, and that's the annoying bit. It feels like the brand knows people will trust the name even at the lowest tier, so corners get cut quietly and the bread just exists to fill a slot on the shelf. It's not value, it's a compromise, dressed up as convenience. Number 11. Waitrose Essential Bread. Waitrose. Essential bread is one of those things that sounds reassuring until you actually eat it. Essential makes it feel honest, no nonsense, like it's just the basics done properly. But the bread itself doesn't really live up to that idea. It's plain to the point of being forgettable, with a texture that feels more functional than satisfying. Nothing about it feels well made. It just feels adequate. And that's what starts to annoy. It's as if the brand assumes people will trust the name and accept less because it's labelled as essential. So the bar quietly drops, and we're meant to be okay with it. Simple is fine, lifeless isn't. Number 10. Co-op standard bread. Co-op standard bread seems to lean heavily on the idea that you're doing the right thing just by buying it. Fairness, community, and ethics are all good things, but the bread itself doesn't really live up to that goodwill. It's fine, but only just. The texture's forgettable, the taste doesn't linger, and there's nothing about it you'd ever look forward to, and that's what starts to feel off. It's as if the brand assumes people will give it a pass because of what co-op stands for, so the product never really has to push itself. Doing good is great, but it shouldn't be an excuse for serving something this uninspiring. Number 9. B&M bread. B&M bread feels like something that exists just because it has to. You don't go in looking for it. You notice it on the way past and think, oh yeah, bread. And that kind of says it all. It's not made to be enjoyed, or even remembered. The slices are basic, the texture is flat, and it feels more like a filler item than actual food. There's no thought behind it beyond being cheap and taking up shelf space. And that's what's annoying. It feels like bread reduced to an afterthought. Something thrown in because it might sell, not because anyone actually cared about making it decent. Number 8. Home Bargains bread. Home Bargains bread is always a gamble. One week it's one brand. The next week it's something completely different, and you never really know what you're getting. That unpredictability might be fine for snacks or cleaning stuff, but for bread, it just gets tiring. You buy a loaf, it's okay once, but the next time it's dry faster, or just feels off. There's no consistency, no baseline you can trust, and that's the problem. It feels like bread here is just surplus stock passing through, not something the store actually cares about doing well. At that point, cheap stops feeling like a deal and starts feeling like a warning. Number 7. Heron Foods bread. Heron Foods bread always feels like it's been on a journey before it gets to you. You pick it up and straight away there's that sense it's been frozen, defrosted, moved around, something's happened to it. And once you eat it, that feeling makes sense. The texture's off, a bit damp or oddly crumbly, and it never reasonably behaves as fresh bread should. Toasting it doesn't fix the problem, it just highlights it. And that's what gets frustrating. It feels like this bread exists to clear stock, not to be eaten commonly. You're not buying food, you're buying whatever stage it's reached in the supply chain. Number 6. Farm Foods bread. Farm Foods bread feels like it's been designed for storage, not eating. Everything about it screams bulk buying and freezer space, not daily use. Once it's out and defrosted, the bread just doesn't feel right. The texture's weak, the slices tear easily, and it never really comes back to life. Toasting helps, but you can still tell it's not meant to be eaten fresh, and that's the issue. It feels like bread that exists for logistics, not enjoyment. Convenient, maybe, but food shouldn't feel this compromised. Number 5. Spa bread. Have you ever noticed where the bread sits in a spa? Sometimes right by the window, sometimes near heaters. That explains a lot. This bread's most significant issue isn't flavor. It's how it's treated before you even buy it. The crust often feels leathery, and the inside is uneven, as if it has already been worn down. It never really feels fresh, just tired. And that's not on you. Bread kept in rough conditions quietly loses whatever quality it had. By the time you eat it, the damage is already done. Number 4. Londis bread. You buy this bread, and straight away, you feel like you're on a countdown. Londis bread has a weirdly short window where it actually works. Day 1, fine. Day 2, noticeably drier. Day 3, you're forcing it. It's not off, but it's already past its best. Sandwiches suffer, toast feels disappointing, and suddenly you're planning meals around bread instead of the other way round. Bread shouldn't feel this time sensitive. When something so basic starts demanding timing and caution, it stops feeling reliable. Number 3. Iceland standard bread. Iceland's standard bread feels like it was never meant to be eaten fresh. Everything about it points back to freezing and storage first, food second. Once it's defrosted, the texture's weak, slightly damp, and it never really recovers. Toasting just exposes how fragile it is, and that's the issue. This bread feels designed around logistics, not real kitchens. It technically works, but it never feels right. When bread starts life in a freezer mindset, you can taste the compromise all the way through. Number 2. Premier Store's bread. Premier Store's bread looks better sealed than it actually is. Tight packaging, neat slices, everything looks controlled until you open it. Then you realize how little substance there actually is. The slices feel lighter than expected, thinner than they should be, like the loaf's been stretched to look fuller than it is. And that's what feels sneaky. It's not about taste going bad, it's about feeling short-changed. Bread shouldn't feel padded visually. When packaging does more work than the product, it starts to feel dishonest. Number 1. Cost-cutter bread. Cost-cutter bread is almost always purchased with a bit of regret. You don't plan to buy it, you end up buying it. You're already there, you need bread, and it feels easier than going elsewhere. And that's the problem. The bread itself never feels like a choice you'd make calmly. It's bland, forgettable, and immediately reminds you why you don't usually buy it. The frustration isn't just the loaf, it's realizing you settled. And when a product is built around people settling, something's off. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. Some bread brands are actually simple, clean, and made with real ingredients, such as number 10. Gale's Bakery Bread. Gale's bread is one of those things you can grab without overthinking it. You don't stand there reading labels or second-guessing yourself. It just feels reliable. The bread tastes as if it were made that day. The texture holds up, and it works well for both toast and sandwiches. Nothing flashy, nothing clever, just solid, proper bread. It's not cheap, but it doesn't feel like it's cutting corners or playing games either. You buy it, you eat it, and it does exactly what you expected. Number 9. Hobbs House Bakery Bread. Hobbs House bread knows when to stop. It's not trying to be artisan theatre, and it's not chasing trends either. The loaf is confident without being loud. The flavour isn't aggressive. The texture isn't showy. It just sits comfortably in the background of a meal, and that's actually its strength. Nothing fights for attention. You eat it and move on, satisfied but not overfed. For people who just want bread to do its job quietly, this one stays in its lane. Number 8. Bread Ahead Artisan Loaves. Bread Ahead loaves feel confident in their flavour, and that's what makes them safe. There's depth, you can taste the fermentation, but it never becomes sour or overpowering. It still works with everyday stuff like butter or eggs, without taking over the whole meal. The crust has character, the inside stays soft, and nothing feels random. It's the kind of bread you can serve to anyone without explaining it or apologizing for it. Number 7. The Dusty Knuckle Bread. The Dusty Knuckle Bread feels human. The loaves aren't perfectly shaped, the crust isn't uniform, and that's precisely why people trust it. It tastes like something that's been handled rather than engineered. You get variation, but in a good way, like real baking rather than factory precision. It works best when you don't overthink it. Tear it, toast it, eat it. For anyone who wants bread that feels made by people, not systems, this one feels genuinely safe. Number 6. Celtic Baker's Artisan Bread. Celtic Baker's bread doesn't push itself forward, and that's why it fits so easily into everyday meals. The flavour is calm, the texture steady, and nothing jumps out in a way that demands attention. It pairs well with whatever you're eating, rather than competing with it. That balance makes it easy to trust. You don't need to plan around it or adjust expectations. It just sits there quietly doing its part, which is exactly what a safe loaf should do. Number 5. The Flour Station Sourdough. The Flour Station Sourdough knows precisely what it is, and doesn't wander off script. It's properly sourdough, but not intimidating. The chew is there, the flavour's developed, and the loaf behaves the same way every time you use it. You're never guessing how it'll turn out once it's sliced or toasted. That consistency makes it easy to recommend. When a breadstick sticks to its lane this cleanly, you can trust it without hesitation. Number 4. Balzanelli's Sourdough. Balzanelli's sourdough feels like it hasn't been rushed, and you can tell The loaf has a slow-made quality, with nothing feeling forced. The crust isn't trying to be dramatic. The flavour isn't shouting. It just unfolds properly as you eat it. It's the kind of bread you don't need to toast aggressively or dress up to enjoy. You slice it, eat it, and it behaves exactly as you hoped. For anyone who just wants calm, well-made sourdough, this one feels quietly safe. Number 3. Bertinet Bakery Bread. Bertinet Bakery Bread feels like it's been made by people who care about technique more than trends. Everything about it feels deliberate, from the crumb to the way the crust breaks. There's a confidence that comes from proper baking skills rather than branding. You don't get wild variation or odd surprises. You get the same solid result each time. That makes it easy to trust. When bread feels this controlled without being lifeless, it becomes something you can rely on without overthinking. Number 2. Lovingly Artisan Bread. Lovingly Artisan bread feels like someone actually paid attention while making it. The loaf has structure, but it's not rigid. The flavors are developed without being heavy, and they don't overwhelm whatever you pair them with. It's the kind of bread that feels considered from start to finish. Nothing feels rushed, nothing feels lazy. You don't need to analyze it or justify buying it. It just quietly fits into everyday meals without demanding effort or forgiveness. Number 1. Coomber's Head Farm Sourdough. Coomber's Head Farm Sourdough feels stripped back in the best way. There's nothing flashy about it, and that's precisely why it works. The loaf tastes clean, the texture holds, and every slice feels intentional. It doesn't try to impress you. It just stays honest. You're never guessing how it'll behave or whether it needs fixing. For bread like this, trust builds naturally. It feels like something made to be eaten regularly, not talked about.